we on the jiu-jitsu mat, we talk about, hey, the moment you start having to teach jiu-jitsu, you're going to learn more about jiu-jitsu to yourself, right? And I feel blessed because of running construction company. My entire job was coaching, always teaching new people the trades, the new kids the trades, right? So it's a skill I developed, but also I think I was naturally good at it because I just happened to be doing it. And then that transferred to jiu-jitsu. And I noticed when I started coaching, wow, I'm learning techniques better because I have to explain it to a room of 30 people. And it's super embarrassing that if I don't know the technique and I'm explaining
there's a little pressure.
There's a little pressure. So they may not know it at the moment, but then I'm gonna go back and study it so I can come back next week and teach it better. So what about when you really started coaching in the fitness world and the different evolutions of the knowledge that you learned made it better for yourself? Did you notice like, hey, cool, instead of just doing fitness, and I guess sometimes that question seems difficult because from the outside, fitness always seems like a personal journey. Like to be fit, I have to go learn everything about fitness. You know, from the outside of jiu-jitsu, it's like, well, if I just go to a jiu-jitsu class, I'm going to learn it because someone's there coaching. But fitness, because of the commercial gyms, I have to go learn everything about fitness myself to then apply it to a 24-hour fitness or LA Fitness, you know, something like that. Yeah. So yeah, I don't. I kind of went on a tangent on that one.
So no, it's good, and I like that question, and you're right. Like, it's so funny, it brings back a lot of memories. Like, I can relate this to jiu-jitsu. Is like, first off, as a coach, when I started coaching, I was really passionate about it, and the thing that I was probably the most passionate about was helping people, because when they got something out of it, I saw that light bulb go on, and they were making their accomplishments or achieving things, and it was through guidance and coaching that I was giving them, like that felt really good. Right? And I think that has to be in there. And if it's not in there, this is never going to be a good idea for you. Sure. Right. So that was part of it. And so once that started to happen, then I was really encouraged, like, well, I want to help all the people in the best way that I can. I don't want to just help, you know, whatever 30-year-old soccer mom over here who just wants to take off the baby weight and feel better and just wants to do a little bodybuilding, and I can do this stuff with their nutrition and whatever else. But I wanted to help the person that came in the gym who had the total knee replacement, right? Yep. And the bodybuilder over there in the corner who was looking to put on 5 more pounds in the next 3 months or whatever, and he really needed to bring out his shoulders or his back, whatever, right? Yep. Like, I was just like, oh man, there's a lot to learn here. And the journey really has been that. It's really been like, first off, recognizing you're never going to know it all. So it is a journey. And so relating it to the other part of it is like, there is going to be a time though, where you're going to think you got this, right? And then there will also be a time when you recognize, oh, I don't got this, right? Like, and so I can kind of relate this to like the blue belt. Yep. Right. Like, so he spent his time on the mat getting through the white belt stuff. And now he's no longer wearing that white belt. And so when the white belts walk into the room, or the other blue belts or whatever, right, he or she's on the floor and she's like, you know, I got this. Like, I got this. And the next thing you know, a white belt ties you up like a pretzel and you're like, oh fuck, what happened there? Or then you step over, you know, to the brown belts or a black belt in the room, asks you to spar, and you get taught a real fast lesson. My point of this is I learned through the education and through my journey, which was through the practical application of the coaching and the actual training. And I'm going to tangent here for a second. And I think this is a big missing piece from coaching. And I think it's relatable to jiu-jitsu too. Again, everybody wants to go from white belt to black belt, and they forget about the process that it takes to get there. And part of that process, like if you go to a particular jiu-jitsu school, they have a curriculum, right, that they're going to teach. That curriculum is really important. Well, in the process of getting stronger, right, getting bigger, getting more powerful, getting faster, whatever that, again, go to the performance side of that triangle, the triangle of awareness, there are periods that you can train, or that you should be organizing your training program and process into, and you need to be patient with that, right? And you need to actually go through there to know what that feels like. Just like going through all the white belt training and then all the blue belt training and all those things, so you know what it feels like. So, and then part of it is like having to answer questions about it, like reviewing it, like in your case, teaching it, like being held responsible for, hey, I need you to teach this guy this stuff. And you're like, oh, now I have a higher level of responsibility to it. So I think a lot of that's missing in coaching today. People are just trying to get to the end without filling in the middle pieces. And so my kind of in my journey, it was making these steps along the way. And what I recognized is at one point, once there was kind of this, tipping point. I was like, oh shit, I have to go back and apologize to all those people I've been coaching for like the last 2 years, because I was so wrong. But yet I was so confident. And that's another thing. Yeah. Like, go back to the white belt, blue belt. Like, they really believe what they're saying and doing is the right thing. No, this is it, man. Like they just don't know what they don't know. There's an unconscious incompetence to what they don't know. And then there's a conscious incompetence that ultimately comes along there. It's like, shit.
Oh yeah.
Once that happens, right, for a coach or, an athlete or somebody along their fitness journey, once you have that conscious incompetence, like, I don't know what I don't know, that is when I find people really start to get it, because then they learn how to answer or ask the second and third question, not just the first one. They process, they think about it, and they're not as fearful about trying the next thing, whatever that is, and sticking with it for a while to then be able to analyze and, kind of process what just happened and did this work and not freak out about it. The issue becomes the consistency, right? If you can stay consistent, that you'll get so far, with that in the journey. Yeah. And so for me, there was a consistency in this learning process and always seeking the next thing, and never being afraid.
Cool. Man, I love that. Well, I'm going to do you one better on your example of, hey, the white to blue belt. Most black belts will tell you this, like, the actual learning of jiu-jitsu starts at black belt. Dude, and it's wild. And I'm not there yet, but I've just recently, because of starting on this journey, traveling country, train jiu-jitsu at a lot of different gyms where I'm now training at specific jiu-jitsu gyms only a lot of the times, and realizing, wow, I spent almost 10 years down this path. And some days it feels like I know nothing.
Yeah.
Because you meet the world champs, the guys who are black belts under the best black belts in the world, and they're teaching things or little details to a technique that I've seen 100 times taught a certain way. And this guy's telling me everything I know about that technique you learned as a white belt is wrong that I've been doing for 10 years, So you have this eye-opening moment where, it's funny in jiu-jitsu, brown belt, black belt, and beyond, like, it always happens. You're always like, wow, I didn't know the whole realm of jiu-jitsu even existed.
It's like a whole nother universe.
Exactly. And then to your point, it's like, I feel like I'm just hitting that stage in my jiu-jitsu journey now where I can really start asking those second and third order questions, because I know what I didn't know before. Right. Like, oh, wow. Like I used to reach and grab the wrist in this position. You don't even do that anymore. The high level guys, no one's doing that. Right. And so, yeah.
How much fun is that though? When you get to that point where you're just like, man, there's like, I could do this forever and still not know it all.
Well, man, I'll be honest with you. I've had a very interesting couple months. A lot of my life has changed, but specifically with jiu-jitsu, because it was almost like, when you look up at the stars for the first time, you're like, oh shit, wait, that goes on forever. It's huge. You look in one direction in a telescope, but it's that in every single direction. It felt like that, like the dauntingness of how large and expansive jiu-jitsu or grappling or wrestling was, because I didn't wrestle as a kid or in high school or college or anything. I didn't have I did karate a little bit.
It wasn't a lifelong journey for you up until this point.
Exactly. So I don't have that base that the guys who are, competing at world level. And again, I know I'm not going to be there competing at that stage, but it's like, I'm envious of it. Right. So sometimes it's hard for me to be like, damn, I'm not going to be there. Damn, this sucks, because there's so many aspects of jiu-jitsu, or of just grappling and martial arts in general, where I look at, because of the internet, it does so many positive things sometimes. I mean, that's how you and I met, right? Because of social media, which is awesome. But I'll see techniques on my feed all the time, right? You got the Sambo guys, the judo guys. There's this aspect of martial arts. It's like, damn, will I ever even come close to understanding 10% of this, right? So I definitely went through this daunting phase recently of like, oh man, and I'm traveling the country training, and I'm going to suck everywhere I go because it's this new experience, and they're doing high level stuff. And then it sat with me. It's like, oh yeah, but you love the journey.
There you go.
So it did. And then it reignited my excitement about martial arts. But I definitely hit this trough recently where I was like, oh my God, it's way too big for me to handle. It's like, wait, I don't need to handle the whole thing. It's just like, just be on the path.
That bottom there, that curve that you just kind of like, we're making, the trough that you said, that is the most critical point. Like, what do you do? Like, cause there's a lot of energy there, right? Yeah. Right. And it's, what do you do with that energy? because it can get really misdirected.
Oh, yeah.
Right. It's like, well, I need to do, and you start engaging in like a behavior or a decision-making process that's completely, self-destructive or counterintuitive or outside the realm. Or do you focus it on what you just said, like you just come out the other side going, where there's this discovery process now, and being cool with embracing that discovery process. So, and bringing it back to fitness, it's the same. Like the people that get the best results, and again, go back to the transformations you were asking about, even those people, I find the people that make these crazy transformations, like they drop 200 pounds or whatever, and they wind up, with abs or whatever else. Those people, while it can be an amazing journey, like it's how they got there that's more important. And did they learn anything along the way? And what were those lessons that they learned? Did they learn that they need to suffer constantly and have to completely reduce, be constantly hungry and all of these things, and just be miserable and not engage in social functions and spend more time working out than they do with their kids and all that stuff? Or did they learn, I can find a balance to this, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's not necessarily that important if I have abs or not, but how I feel, how I perform, how I recover, all of these kinds of things. And then also knowing, like, if I want to dial things up, if I had this, this vacation I wanted to get ready for, whatever, then I plan for it and I do things the right way. Right. For sure. So it's part of the plan, but the journey, and you nailed it, dude. When you can embrace the journey and like, just go, man, this is what it's all about. And what a crazy place for you to be right now, traveling all over and doing it and living that journey.
For sure, man. Well, and I think the secondary piece to what I just explained was, I was recently listening to a podcast on Andy Stumps, and this Green Beret puts on a course for people to go through, like, hey, fitness journey, we're going to test ourselves. We're rucking 20 miles through the night, all this stuff. Well, one of the guys, and he didn't know, in his course, had just recently had a knee replacement like 4 months ago and shouldn't have been doing this. He didn't disclose it. And granted, it was one of his first classes, so he didn't have the forms to start learning through this business experience. Learning. Exactly. Yeah. Well, the guy had to end up sitting out the whole course, but they were out in the middle of nowhere, so he couldn't go back into town. So he's just in the truck. Well, that guy, later he had a conversation with him, had actually the most profound experience, because he was always a tough young athlete, powered through everything. And in that moment, in that truck for the next 8 hours, everyone's doing it, they accomplished it. He had that revelation of, could I have powered through? Maybe, probably not. And I would have been more injured, but it was more important for my strategic long-term health to sit this one out, and I'm okay with that. So I heard him say that recently. Last week I was walking around SF, and it hit me as like, wow, at the same time I realized how big jiu-jitsu was and got frightened by it. Well, I can also be okay with just being along for the journey in the path I'm personally on because of my own injuries before and the way I need to handle my health to stay on the path. So it's like those two things coinciding at the same time, hearing that guy's story, like, wow, I need to do what's best for me long term. I don't need to push through whatever next training session. It's okay for me to tap, and I'm learning that lesson all the time,
So I love Andy Stumps. Cleared Hot's one of my favorite podcasts. Yep. I love his show. The point of that is interesting in that you're getting that from a podcast and you're making that connection, right, through somebody else's story. Yep. It isn't your story. No. And you're not trying to apply the same things. I mean, God forbid, you don't need a knee replacement to learn this lesson. Yeah, right?
Exactly.
And then go through this brutal sort of evolution of whatever it is that they were doing. The point of that is like you're exposing yourself to these different things, right? And I know Andy's show, it's very specific. He talks with a very specific, type of person, and it's entertaining, and I get a lot out of it as well. It's not for everybody, right? But the point of this is like you're exploring all these other things, and as a result, it's helping you connect the dots in your life. And I think that is another big piece of this journey, is that people need to open themselves up to what else is out there, and stop. And not be distracted by the noise and or the constant static that they're hearing about. This is the way it's supposed to be, or this is the way it can't be this way. Like, sure. Stop that shit. Like there are so many approaches to this. There is no one size fits all. It's just the flat out isn't. Yeah. And so, this diet, that diet, this exercise program, this thing over here, whether it's Red Dot or CrossFit or whatever else, look, they're all going to provide a certain level of value. It's what can you extract, in terms of value that's appropriate and suits your needs and goals. And the criteria you need it to suit you in order to ultimately be successful long term, which was I think your point there, right? Like gives me longevity in this, not just because this is a good way. Like there is no, in the fitness world, there's nobody standing at the end of this fucking thing with the trophy. It's going to congratulate you for losing 50 pounds.
Yep.
It's never over, right? Yeah. It's never over. It's a constant process, right? And same with jiu-jitsu. Okay, you got the black belt. Now what?